So I'm running a pre-con in Pathfinder. I'm not gonna say the title of it just so that I don't I guess talking about it might spoil it because people will be able to figure it out. But anyway, I'm not gonna name the title of it just so that people don't get spoiled. If you want to know it, DM me something like that. I'll shoot it over to you because if you want to run this and see what happens with your players, all power to you. But I'm running a pre-con, and there is a point where the party can encounter a clone. An inactive clone, but a clone. And for those of you who don't know, clone is a spell that creates a duplicate of the individual that remains in existence. Oftentimes you have to preserve it in some way just in case you plan to be alive for a long time. The reason I say this is because if you die, you then get to resurrect inside the body of that clone with some of the penalties of having died, negative levels that need to be recovered from, whatever. But it's a very powerful necromancy spell. It's a very cool necromancy spell because theoretically you could actually use it as a very strong plot device to kind of indicate that hey, there's this ancient evil or something like that that still exists because the clone hasn't been activated yet. And that's what was going on in this campaign. Now, the cool thing is the area that the clone is stored in is trapped. Obviously, you want to protect your contingency plans to trigger off of the chance of someone. Sorry, let me go ahead and close this window over here to kind of contain to mitigate the fact that someone might try to destroy the clone so that you won't be able to resurrect in it. And that is exactly what's going on in this part of the campaign. It is trapped. But what's funny is they actually wrote it so that the trap has a little bit of a quirk to it. It uses the Phantasmal Killer spell, which, for those of you, again, who don't know, is a fantastically cool spell. It requires the target to make a will save and then a fortitude save. And if they fail both, they outright die. If they succeed in the will save, nothing happens. And if they succeed in the will save, or fail in the will save but succeed in the fort save, they only take a little bit of damage. It's a really cool spell. Thematically, I love it. I, at some point, want to build a character who uses phantasms as their whole thing because phantasms are just a really cool mechanic. And so, Phantasmal Killer would proc if someone tries to steal from or attack this clone. But if they are killed by Phantasmal Killer, they do not die per se. They instead get their soul dragged into the clone and they resurrect in the clone body instead of it being used to resurrect this ancient evil. My party managed to avoid this through a lot of very good questions, very well thought out questions, very well phrased questions, a lot of very thought out roles, a lot of very thought out planning. They managed to identify the trap. They managed to identify what was going on with this clone. They managed to identify what was going on, except for this one little tidbit. And I wanted to keep it to myself, keep it in my pocket to maybe throw it at them and have them have this be a little bit of a story arc in one of the homebrews that I do at some point. I may still be able to do it, but now they're going to kind of know what's going on, and they're going to be able to not be so mad when I throw it at them because I did let them know hey, it is a reversible thing. If it had happened to your party, there would have been ways to fix it, and that actually could have been a fun little side quest that we could have done. But anyway, their solution, which was brilliant, and I also want to talk about this because I applaud them for having done so, was simply to have the paladin, who has Aura of Courage, which for everyone else means that in the party that they get a bonus to saves against fear effects. For the paladin, it means they're immune to fear effects, which means any spell with the fear descriptor, which phantasms typically have, and Phantasmal Killer definitely has, they're just immune to the spell. They don't get affected by it in the slightest. They don't have to make any saves because it cannot possibly affect them in the first place. They had the paladin be the one to smash the clone, and I didn't even really care to have them roll. I was just as I was reading the whole thing, and since I had known that they had these abilities recently because we had encountered a couple of their things involving fear, and they had brought this up of like, oh yeah, by the way, this is an effect that I have, because other creatures at that level that they're at frequently cause some kind of fear effect. So I knew exactly what would happen, how had they decided to interact with it that way, and they did, and I was very impressed by them because that was a lot of really good investigating, intuiting, if that's even a word. Their intuition was spot on, and their problem solving for it, using the tools that they had on hand, were phenomenal because immediately, it wasn't even like a long deliberation. It was like immediately, oh, well, if it's a fear effect, why not just have the paladin deal with it? And then we don't even have to worry about anything happening. And so because they managed to totally sidestep it, I was sitting there like, okay, guys, you have no idea what you just avoided. I kept running the session. And then at the end of the session, I was like, you know what, guys? I'm going to tell you what you just avoided because I am impressed by you. I want to do this at some point, but I feel like you deserve to know what it is that you could have been interacting with and just how crazy good your solution was to entirely sidestep the issue. So yeah. GMs, again, just remember, if your players manage to totally beat whatever it is within the rules, you shouldn't be mad. I was a little disappointed, that we didn't get to use this really cool thing where they became the embodiment of this great evil that everyone knows and recognizes because she's had a monument erected on the landscape countryside that is her likeness. So everyone would kind of know who it was, sort of. But a lot of people might just assume, oh, it's just someone masquerading as her or something like that. Like, it's not actually the great evil. And there would be some people who'd be like, wait a minute, that's way too, like, alike, and that's not an illusion because I can see through illusions. What the hell's going on here? And then there might be some people who know them and know their affectations when they speak and meet the character when they're in that form and be like, what happened to you? And, so I'm disappointed I don't get those moments. But I'm so proud of my players for having solved it. And you should be proud of your players for being able to solve something, even if it steals, quote unquote, those moments that you were hoping to build up to and to have them experience and share with them. Doesn't matter. They did something impressive. They're going to be telling stories about, man, we saw this crazy trap. We saw what was going on with it. We avoided it. We are so happy. We are clever. We are brilliant. We are just the smartest adventurers out here. And we did it with style. Let them have that win. Let them have that win because that is the story they're going to be telling. And that's what it's all about. Be excellent to each other. Be excellent to yourselves. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.